now it's Heinz. I didn't realise, Heinz, you actually went to the leading UK university, Bangor University in North Wales. Well done. So not only did he go to a fantastic university, he also has spent time working in Scotland with the Savings Red Squirrels project, a couple of years there, and then he returned to England, worked with Red Squirrels Northern England, and he's now the manager of Red Squirrels Northern England. And Heinz is going to tell us about the project's history, and I presume also about the future. Yeah, take it away, Heinz. Thank you.
Thank you, Craig. Coincidentally, Craig was one of my lecturers at university for a few modules, and he taught me about red squirrels, so here I am. It's really good to see all my red squirrel colleagues and friends that I've got to know over the last 8 years. My goodness. And yeah, I also just want to welcome those self-declared squirrel widows. Thank you very much for sacrificing the time of your other half, because without their help, this wouldn't be possible. I'll get onto that a little bit later. Right, so I'm just going to give a quick overview. I've got half an hour. I think that's going to go very quickly, so hopefully I get to cover that effectively. Just keep an eye on the time. So, 25 years, goodness. And can you hear me all right? Is that better? Very good. So over the last 25 years, much has happened, and the Wildlife Trusts have been involved with squirrel conservation. So I'm just going to do a quick overview of the last 10 years or so. But just to look back to 1991 to 2005, you had Red Alert. Then you had Save Our Squirrels from 2006 to 11, and then Red Squirrels Northern England, a project housed within the Northumberland Wildlife Trust. And what is our aim? To maintain red squirrel range in Northern England. And how do we do that? Well, the mechanisms for delivering that is multiple. Grey squirrel management and monitoring networks that we facilitate, encourage, and hope to establish, empowering local communities to deliver conservation, and collaboration, innovation, knowledge sharing. So those are the things we've sort of generally been focusing on over the last number of years. Of course, in partnership with many different organizations, groups, individuals, etc. So between 2011 and 15, our team looked very, very different to the way it looks today. The project kicked off in 2011, and it was enabled with BIFA award funding, lottery funding, and English Woodland Grant Scheme funding. And our focus was to stabilize red squirrel range within red squirrel strongholds. And to support and help community projects, and also engaging landowners across the region. So, just turn that screen a bit more. So between 2011 and 15, you can see the sort of staff structure above that. We had a number of objectives. We established the largest survey of red squirrel range ever undertaken across 6 counties in Northern England. We carried out targeted grey squirrel control over 80,000 hectares of woodland, and we helped to establish new and support red squirrel community groups, which has raised awareness through various mechanisms, established Friends of Red Squirrel, which is like a membership program that people pay an annual subscription to, and that's really helped us. We distribute the Red Reports as a newsletter that go out. We got involved in social media and the press and established a web page. And between 2012 and 17, via 25 different English Woodland Grant Schemes, which were accumulated to a value of about £150,000 per year, we delivered grey control on a contractual basis across 7,000 hectares. So those were sort of a summary of the achievements across 2011 and 15. Looking at a more recent, the last 3 years, 4 years, so Red Squirrels United was a definite help and boost for us in terms of funding and allowing us to deploy rangers and focus on Kilda. Countryside stewardship was fairly new, and we had to get to grips with that, understand the new grant scheme, very different to the old grant scheme, way more complex, whereas the English Woodland Grant Scheme before that was grey squirrel specific. The Countryside Stewardship Scheme is quite varied, and it requires up to 17 different environmental objectives to be met. So we had to get our heads around that and sell it to landowners who were found it very daunting initially. Nevertheless, we had great success with that. Then also other grant schemes and various donations have helped us to keep going. And our focus has been, again, grey squirrel management and establishing networks, facilitating networks, and squirrel range monitoring across the 300 sites across the north of England. And really a focus that's been really important as well is to support community groups in any possible way that we could, through training and assisting with funding or making them aware of funding opportunities. And yes, of course, collaborate with various partners over the last 4 years. Just to look at a bit more detail, carrying out grey squirrel control through countryside stewardship contracts, also enabled through Forestry England estates, and I've got to defend them a little bit. They are contributing towards the work we're doing. So that is definitely a help. So countryside stewardship, woodland improvement grant schemes, Forestry England, and also support from United Utilities bring us in about £150,000 a year. And with that, now some people get paid that per year, but with that you've got to run a team and deliver grey squirrel control with a number of rangers and contractors, and we've done that as best as we can with the limited resources we've got. And also supported red squirrel community groups. Now this is really key. 80% of the delivery of red squirrel conservation on the ground, 80% plus, is delivered by local groups, and that's really, really important, and it's fantastic. That's why I say without the support of local group and your interest in red squirrel conservation, we wouldn't be where we are today as far as the distribution and abundance of reds are in the north of England. We've continued to manage the Friends of Red Squirrels, so we've got just over 600 members. We've continued to distribute a red report. On social media, we've got about 4,000 plus members, and we've accumulated a master database of about 100,000 records, which is an astronomical spreadsheet to work with all those records of monitoring results, grey squirrel culling and sightings, etc. So that's a resource that is waiting for us there to utilize, and I'll get onto that a little bit later. And then lastly, to coordinate and monitoring program, which is a really challenging task if you consider across the various counties that we operate, 300 different sites, 150 plus volunteers. You've got to get all the survey kit out there and get it coordinated to start on time, end on time, all the results back, and analyze the results where we've done it. And we'll come on to a graph that illustrates the results and some maps. And as Nikki mentioned, we've also been doing quarterly surveys within Kilda. We hope to continue with that, maybe not every quarter, but every 6 months. So yeah, we hope for that to continue. Just a quick map on Kilda. So as part of the Red Squirrels United program, we're able to establish 153 survey sites and monitor the forest. And these are the results. Just a quick overview of sort of the greys and the red distribution within the forest. And Nikki showed that graph as well, which illustrates the proportion of reds and greys within those 53 sample sites. These are the results of our annual monitoring program, which is across 7 counties. The detailed report can be viewed online on our website, but yeah, as you can see there on the left, 170 people involved in it, 86% of those are volunteers who delivered, etc. So different survey methodologies, the main one being feeder and camera survey methodology. And these are the results over the last number of years. Now this does give us a clue that something's changed. When we look at the distribution map that Nikki showed earlier that was questioned, are we going to update that, that showed change over time of distribution of red and greys. Now, it seems that that decline in distribution of red squirrels has been halted, paused, because this graph shows you that reds are still hanging in there in the north of England, and I think that's good news, and that means what we've been doing has had an effect. It has changed things, but we can't give up. We've got to keep going. These are two maps illustrating last year's results. Map on the left, red squirrel, red squares, tetrads, and on the right-hand side, grey distribution. So there definitely still is an overlap. And yes, this map illustrates over between 2011 and 2017, wherever you see a 2 by 2 kilometer square tetrad, that's where somebody in the volunteer community has helped, done something to help red squirrels. And that's an amazing picture. The effort that illustrates that's out there is amazing. So what about the future? Do we just continue the way we are? Yes, we can. We can expand on our countryside stewardship grant portfolio, which we will do. We'll continue to do that. Or are we going to be a bit more adventurous in the way we go forward? And that's where the term return of the reds comes in. And that is the description we're giving potentially the next project, very likely the next project. So we're busy working, as Steve alluded to, a big National Lottery Heritage Fund application at the moment. And I'm going to tell you a little bit now what that involves or would involve and contain in it. So these are some of the key elements it could contain. So yeah, grey squirrel management, of course. Red squirrel monitoring, yes, continue with that. Grey squirrel fertility control. And I'll go into each one of these with a bit more detail in the next slides. Understanding natural grey squirrel control, local engagement, community outreach, tourism and visitor engagement, and building sustainability for the future, gathering learnings, etc. as well. So grey squirrel management. We need to establish a model for local delivery. Yes, we have models at the moment, but let's look at it. Let's sense check it. Is it right? Are we doing the best we can? Is our strategy right? We want to reinforce it and bring in the development of a web platform and a field app. Now, if you recall back to my reference to a database of 100,000 records, imagine we could bring that in to a web platform that can be interpreted and reports run off and maps run off for local groups, and they can analyze the historical data and see what's the historical picture, where were the incursion routes, but look at more recent data as well. Also to facilitate the entry of data, make it more streamlined and help it to sense check the data as it comes in. Data management has been a tremendous headache. It's a really difficult thing to do. 100,000 records, the value of that in terms of the cost and time that needed to be invested to have a database of 100,000 records is really a lot. And if we can make that process better of getting data in, using the data, understanding the data, and have an innovative, intuitive way of analyzing it, that would be great. Develop a new accredited training for new volunteers, key in the term accredited, which will give it some punch and force when it comes to landowners to have some accreditation and recognition for the training, trap training or whichever training we decide to do. But trapping would definitely be one of them. Within that project, Turn of the Reds, we'd have 3 to 4 to 6 rangers. That doesn't sound like a lot, however. The next point is we're going to ask for about £160,000 plus for local group delivery. So that will be in the form of a £200,000 grant that groups can apply for whatever their needs, materials, whatever it is, and then a dedicated £400,000 for local delivery. That's where you in the groups, in collaboration with us, deploy and employ a ranger and get them deployed in the area. Grey squirrel fertility control. So yes, this is working in collaboration with the Animal and Plant Health Agency to establish a deployment methodology. The fertility control of vaccine is not quite ready yet. It's in development, and we're a few years off. However, when it's ready, we don't want to be in a position where we're like, oh, what do we do now? We want to be ready for it. We want to go through the process, go through the motions, test the deployment practicalities. So with the help of volunteer groups to trial, and with the help of the Animal Plant Health Agency to come up with a methodology to deploy it so that we're ready when the vaccine is online and on production. And then learn from other projects, for example, the Badger Project vaccination program. How am I doing for time? Okay. Red squirrel monitoring. So yes, we want to take a pause and review and redesign the existing monitoring program, again in collaboration with local groups and stakeholders, to sense check it, to say, is there a better way of doing it? Are we doing it in the right places? Is there a more efficient way of doing it? Is there a more thorough way of doing it? There's no survey methodology that's perfect, but we want to improve on it. So do this in collaboration with groups and test it before we start applying it from next year. The web platform will help with that, to make it more intuitive to enter survey results. And of course, we definitely need to recruit a wider audience of volunteers and new volunteers to assist us with the delivery of monitoring across the north of England. Pine martens, so emphasis on understanding the synergy between pine martens, grey squirrels and red squirrels. We've got some science already, so this is not talking about facilitating or reinforcing or reintroductions. It's just looking at monitoring and understanding what's happening with pine martens, specifically in Kielder Forest, because that's where they're starting to repopulate at the moment. So establish a monitoring program that's complementary and fits in alongside the squirrel monitoring program, which would make sense and be more efficient. Understand and determine what is the baseline distribution of pine martens across Kielder and the surrounds. Community consultation to understand what the public attitudes and concerns are. I think that's really important. They are landowners and gamekeeping associations or groups that I work with, and they're very concerned about it, and we need to understand their concerns, learn from other projects like in Ireland, what they've done to mitigate for that. Then collaborate with Forestry England and the Vincent Wildlife Trust in this, because they're already doing a lot with it, so it makes sense to work with them and learn from other projects. This is a picture we had on one of our survey cameras in 2018, and they keep on popping up, and that sort of started around 2018, where pine martens are appearing here and there in Kielder Forest. So we need to understand what's happening, what dynamics is at work. And local community engagement. So we want to help with communications and project support officer through a project support officer to produce high quality publicity, public relations, communications, including media, social media and marketing. This is at draft stage, but these are the ideas that we are working on. Have a community engagement officer, plus representatives within groups that does similar or work alongside to organize and coordinate activities, example, the arts program, school education, holiday sessions, etc. Develop an education pack, activity program, and an engagement plan. And also within all that, to provide some training for local groups so they could actually take this, for example, an education pack and have the skills to deliver it at a local school, which may potentially also be a valuable income stream for local groups. Perhaps not very big, but at least it's a way of engaging local youngsters and their parents through direct delivery through groups. 5 minutes, okay. Tourism and visitor engagement. So we want to do market research through a consultant, so understand, is our communication strategy appropriate? We want to work with an interpretation consultant to establish interpretation, develop interpretation material and decide where to put it, how best do we engage with the public, and develop a Red Squirrel country tourism program. Building sustainability, so hosting regional knowledge fairs, having local forums, perhaps 2 per year in the different counties, establish new information sharing web platform, agree the success indicators for the project and what we're doing, and of course do all that in collaboration with all those organizations that I've listed there, especially local groups. There's no point of doing it on our own. We have to collaborate. We have to build this together. And if we're successful, we've got a week left to develop this application and submit it to lottery. They've had an initial look. They really say it's looking good. They say it's a lot of money, but they understand. And these type of projects just need that. So positive now. We've got to submit. We wait till June, get a decision. And then we'll have 12 months to develop this in collaboration with you and partners. And then January 2022, it will go live for 5 years. That's what we hope. At the moment, the signals are looking positive. And that's potentially how a team could look. I don't know if you can see that. It's a bit small on my screen. But I've got to emphasize this size of project cannot be delivered with a few people. And I've tried to highlight that to show that the field staff is the greater component of this project. And these are people in the field working with you, local communities, local landowners, and delivering for action. And you've got a full-time project coordinator for each county, which you absolutely need from experience, who then coordinates local rangers and contractors, and in collaboration with local groups. Hopefully that made sense and provides some hope for the future and interest. Thank you very much.